Alright, so we should be live now, and this evening, I'm going to be working on TDD and the String Calculator Kata. Let me just do a quick sound check. I'm going to be working on... Alright, that sounds good. I can shut that down. Let's, hopefully this has been on the screen long enough that YouTube picks it up when I put it there, so we'll jump here and say welcome. This is part of a devbetter.com exercise we're doing this week. I wanted all the members that have time to go through the String Calculator Kata. You can learn more about DevBetter by going to devbetter.com. It's a coaching program I have for software developers. Get rid of that. If you're not familiar with the String Calculator Kata, it was created by Roy Osherov a long time ago, 10 years ago at least. And it's a nice kata you can do to help with test-driven development, and that's what we're going to do here this evening. So I have a list of katas out here on github.com/kata catalog, and let me throw a link to that in the chat for anyone who's interested. So there's a bunch there. These are things I've done with various user groups and things like that for many years, and they're very useful if you're not super comfortable with test-driven development, or you're trying to learn a new language, or practice a design pattern, or refactoring. They have different strengths and variety, so you can kind of go through this catalog and see if any of them really strike you as being something you'd like to do. They can be great for a lunch and learn, or at your next .NET user group, or what have you. Alright, so the string calculator is just one of them here. We'll jump to it. And the instructions for it are shown here, and I'll make this a little bigger for you. And the idea with this kata is it's just an exercise to help you get better writing code, writing tests. Roy Osherov wrote the book, The Art of Unit Testing. I think there's a second edition out now. And so this was something to help people get better at writing unit tests. Catalog. I know. I really should have just called it catalog, MC Nerdius. That's been frequent feedback. In fact, probably there's an issue here that says that I should rename it. In any case, it is what it is. I think people might search for this more readily. We'll see. Okay. So the thing that makes this kata different from a lot of the other ones in this catalog is that you want to try and do it within a 30-minute period. Now that's not required. You could certainly just take as long as you need, get through it all, and enjoy the fact that you completed it, and that's fine. But if you're trying to see how well you can do in a certain period of time, you want to be able to repeat this and see your progress. Because again, the idea here is that you want this to be natural. You want to develop muscle memory. You want to be good with the tools and the keystrokes, the commands, whatever it is that makes you be more effective at this, so that you can take that and use it at work. Use it when you're building real production software, when you might be under time pressure, as we so often are. So the idea here is do it and see how far you get, and then just stop, and then wait however long. Don't start another one immediately necessarily. You can. I mean, it's not against the rules, but give it a month and come back to it, and then see how you do a month later. And see if you've gotten any better, right? Maybe you're doing some other katas in between, or doing some other ways to practice. Now, I haven't done this kata in at least a year, I would say, although I have done it probably half a dozen times in the past, maybe a couple more. And so one of the things about this that also makes it a little bit different than some of the other exercises is that the steps should be done incrementally, and you shouldn't read ahead to see what the next one is. So the idea here is try not to read ahead and guess what the next requirements might be. Just work on one step at a time. So we're going to read the first step here before I start my timer, and just read all of section 1's requirements, which are now on the screen. So the goal here is to create a string calculator. That's going to be the name of our class, and it has a method called add, and it takes an argument called numbers of type string. So that's why it's a string calculator, and this returns an integer. Now, it's even going to tell us how we should start writing our tests. It says start with the simplest test case that says if there's an empty string, what should happen? If there's one number, what should happen? If there's two numbers, what should happen? Try and solve things as simply as possible. We'll see what that means in a minute, but with TDD, the idea is that you want to do the simplest thing that could possibly work to make the test pass, even if you know that's not going to be the code that you're going to end up with. All right, so then on step 3, it tells you that if there is an empty string, the sum should be 0. Right? We're not going to throw exceptions. We're not doing any guard clauses or validation here. If we get a string that's empty, we will sum that up to 0. Numbers can currently include 0, 1, or 2 integers, and the example input shows them as empty string 1, 1, 2. Add should return the sum of the integers provided in that string, and then we want to refactor after each test. So we want to follow red, green, refactor. And in fact, we're going to do a slight twist on that, which is RGRC, which is red, green, refactor, commit. So I've got this going into a Git repo, and there's a really nice tool you can use called Git History.xyz that will let you kind of step through your commits, and it has an animated view in the browser that shows you the history of what your code looks like. So it's nice to see what things look like when you're refactoring. And in fact, you can even commit more frequently. You can commit, red, green, commit, refactor, commit. Is sometimes even better if that doesn't get to be too much. All right, so let's start with our project. I have a 30-minute timer here, and if you didn't know, if you weren't sure of the easiest way to get a timer, it turns out Google is really easy. So you can set this timer up, set it to whatever time you want. If we want to make it a 3-second timer, just so you can see what this thing does when it finishes, it makes a sound, right? So then you know that it's done. So let me just reset that. And the other thing is, of course, the time doesn't start until you're ready to go with your environment set up and all that stuff. So I've already created my repository that I want to commit this stuff to. I did create a solution using a little bit of .NET CLI here. So I said, when I finally got the syntax right, it was right here, .NET new SLN will create a new solution. -n is the name, and this will be the String Calc Kata 2021-05. I don't expect to do any more in this month. And this is going into a new GitHub repo I created called String Calculator Kata attempts, so I could put multiple different attempts in here. Strangely enough, I don't already have a bunch of my past attempts in GitHub for some reason. I try to put everything in GitHub. But we're going to start now. All right, so I've got this String Calculator Kata.sln created. We're going to go ahead and work in Visual Studio today, so it looks like this. I don't even have a project in here yet. I've just created that empty solution, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a new project. And for this, we're going to use a XUnit test project. Next, and we'll call it String Calc. What did I call the solution? I can't remember now. String Calc 2021-05. That'll work. That goes in there. Should be fine. I hope it puts it in a subfolder. I can never remember what it's going to do, but we'll see what it does. All right, so create this project. Now, because it's a kata, we don't need multiple projects. We don't need a source project and a test project and all that. We're going to do all our work in just this one place. And we know that the thing we're going to write the test for is called String Calculator. So we can just start with that. And technically, maybe I should be starting a timer right about now, but I'm going to get myself at least set up with an empty class and an empty file. And we'll move that to String Calculator. And then this thing has one method called add. And I prefer to name my tests, my test classes to be the name of the class I'm testing. String Calculator, if I could type, add. And I go back and forth on whether or not to use an underscore, but we'll just say String Calculator add is the name of our class. And here's our first test, which I'm not going to start doing anything with until we start the timer. Now, how are we going to run these tests, and how do we want to see these things at the same time? Let's take this, and before we start the timer, let's just rename our file. There we go. And then we can open up String Calculator, and then it's up to you whether you prefer your test on the right or the left. I think I like them the other way, so we're going to go put this over here and put this over here. And then there's our Test Explorer, which I'm probably not going to use. Since I have the version that supports it, I may just use live unit testing because it's faster. But occasionally I may jump over here into Test Explorer and just see these things running. If you haven't used live unit testing, you can go in here if you have the right version of Visual Studio, and you can just say Start, and you'll start running any tests that it discovers. And we'll get rid of that. All right. So that's what this little thing here is doing is it's looking for live unit tests, which right now it says is excluded. I don't know why. Where's live unit testing? It should be in here somewhere, right? I don't see it. Oh, there it is. Okay, include. So include all the things, and now there's a test running and it's green, so that means it ran. Okay, now let's start the timer. All right, so let's jump back here. We'll hit start. We'll go back to our instructions here. The clock is ticking. Simplest test is an empty string. Empty string should return 0. All right, so that means we want a test that says add returns 0 given empty string. Okay. Before I get much further than that, I'm going to do git initial commit 2021-05, commit all the things, and we've got that going. All right, now I don't need this in my way anymore. We're going to say var calculator equals new string calculator. All right, and then we'll say var result equals calculator.add empty string. Okay, and then we'll say assert.equal 0 result. Now here's where you could decide you want to use Fluent assertions or some other assertion framework. Now this thing doesn't exist yet, so we're going to generate it. It's not implemented, and live unit testing shows me that my test is failing, right? I want to make this pass with the simplest thing I can. We're going to call this string numbers because that's our requirement, and we're going to say return 0. Now we've just done the first test. Now we're going to commit real quick and say test1 commit and get that out of there. Okay, so now we need to do another test. The easiest way to do another test is to copy paste, because copy paste programming is the best. We're going to say returns 1 given string with 1, and we do that and we do that, and guess what? It fails. And we can say if string dot is, we'll say null or empty, which is a little bit more than we need, numbers, then return 0, otherwise return 1. And once again, we're green. Now, at this point, we might want to refactor because we do have a little bit of, hey Sean, how's it going? We do have a little bit of duplication here. I generally follow a 3 strikes you're out rule for duplication. So when I see duplication twice, I just go with it. By the time I get to the 3rd time, then I want to do something about it. Now the next requirement was going to be that we have this one number or we have a comma separated number. I don't think we've covered enough of the cases for the one number yet, so I'm going to write another test. And in fact, I'm going to use a theory at this point and say inline data, this is the next unit feature, that we're going to pass it 1, and we'll just say the expected value is 1, and we'll put that in here, and we'll say string numbers int expected result, and then we just change this to be the numbers and this to be the expected result, and that should still do the same exact thing. So it's not, it's basically a refactoring, right? So let's go say we did test 2 plus refactor to theory. There's that. All right, so now this becomes test 3 when we say, well, what happens if we pass you a 2? We expect a 2. All right, now we fail again because this thing is just stupid. So what would be an easy way to make this now more generic, more flexible? Well, we could just say it does int.parse numbers, and I think that will make it pass. And it does. So we'll do that. Should we refactor? Well, there's still only 2 of anything in here that's the same, so I think we're okay. We'll come in here and we said test 3 and commit and continue on. So I'm done with this type of case. I should probably rename this returns number given string with 1 number. Okay, so what should it do if it has 2 numbers? Well, we'll keep the theory this time because there might be some other things we want to test. But we'll start with 1 comma 2 because that was given to us, and there's 3, right? And so we want this to return sum given string with 2 comma separated numbers, like that. And what does it give us? Well, it doesn't give us that. So over here, 1, 2 makes 3, and just finished 2 of Steve's. Katrina me. Oh, Pluralsight courses. Nice. Cool, cool, cool. All right, getting distracted by comments. Sorry. Okay, so how do we do this in the simplest possible way, right? We can't just int.parse it. Now we can be a little bit goofy here and just say something like if numbers.contains, comma, return 3, right? And that gets us through it for 1, but that's really sort of a hack. So let's take that a step further, and let's say, well, what happens if it's not those 2 numbers, right? What if it's 2 and 3, and then we're going to get 5? Okay, well, now we're forced to do something with this. So a reasonable thing that we might do is split it, right? So if we say var inputs equals numbers dot split on comma, right now I have a bunch of characters there. Okay, and then I could say, and those are strings, right? We have a bunch of strings in an array. But I could actually make this the result at this point, because I know link, and I know I can take a bunch of strings and I can do an int.parse on them. So I can say with link something like dot select, which I need to pull in link for, and dot select s such that int.parse s, right? Now I've got what? I've got a bunch of numbers, right? Out is an int, or a sequence of ints. And then link is nice because it just gives us a sum. So we can do that, and then here we just say return result. And I need a parenthesis for that to build. And we're good, right? Everything's green again. Now, at this point, we can check in because everything's green. So we'll say this is test multi numbers commit. But it's probably a good time to think about refactoring here. So we've got string calculator, string calculator, string calculator. New is glue, and it's binding my test to this class just as much as it would in my production code. So I'm going to say private string calculator underscore calculator equals new string calculator. And if we're going to have a bunch of different ways to build it, I'd use a builder or something similar. But in this case, it's going to be pretty trivial. So we're going to do that, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do that, and get rid of a couple more lines. Okay, so that's good. Now we could also get rid of this line, var result equals whatever with some thing. For now, I'm going to keep that. I think this is easy enough to read, and it's only 2 lines of code, so I don't need it to be that small. So let's keep that the way it is. And I think we're ready to go read the next step. So I don't know how much time I've used, 8 minutes, and we're done with step 1, I think, right? We've done these 3 cases, we've got the sum, we've refactored. All right. Now step 2, not reading ahead to step 3 if I can help it, says allow the add method to handle an unknown number of numbers in the string. All right, so that's fine. Let's do, we had 2, let's try it with 3. Just in case somehow that's different. I think my solution already works, but let's do 3 comma separated things, and we'll say 1, 2, 3, and 2, 3, 4, and that makes 6, and that makes, I don't know, tough math there, and we're still good. So this is finished 3 numbers, step 2, done. All right, what next? Alt-tab. To the thing. There we go. Allow the add method to handle new lines between numbers as well as commas. For example, 1 backslash n comma return 6. 1 comma backslash n is invalid, but you don't have to test for it, so no need to even write that test. So back here, we want to be able to support new lines. So let's start with taking an existing, where are you red? Taking an existing test and getting it to work with new lines. So how about this one? And we'll bring it down here. Let me see. What did they want it to be? 1 and okay. No, I shouldn't do that one. Let's do this one because it's got 3 numbers. And bring it here. So it's 3 comma or new line separated numbers. We'll get rid of that. And the actual input they want was \n and n comma. So right here, exactly what they gave us. And look, it's red. It doesn't work. So how do we make that work over here? Well, we need to split on something that isn't just one of those. And it turns out split has some options. I believe it will split on multiple different things. Or there is some type of thing that will split on multiple things. So let's do char delimiters equals new char, and we have a comma, and we have \n, something like that. Is that valid? No, I'm going to do that. Right? And this should be var. There, that passes. Okay, so now I've got the delimiters. And does split take delimiters? Can I just do this? Does that compile? Yes, look at that. Alright, so things are looking up. We've got everything good. Can I refactor this? I think I'm still happy with 2 lines per test. So, but let's just test a few more cases just to be fair. What if we do 2 \n? What if we do what if we do comma \n? Right? I know these all should work, but they all do. So there we go. So what was that? That was step 3 done. So step 3 done. Bam. Alright. Now we come back here and we go to step 4, which says allow the add method to handle a different delimiter. To change the delimiter, the beginning of the string should be a separate line formatted like / delimiter, then a \n, and then all the numbers. For example, whack whack semicolon lets us just use a new delimiter of semicolon. And I don't remember if that's in addition to. Alright, the first line is optional. Everything else should still work as before. Okay, so let's write a test for that. And our test, you should test 1 comma, nope, it said not to, helpful stranger. I was going to, I really would, but it told me not to do it. Alright, so in here now, I want to say basically the thing they gave me, which is this, and we'll put that there. So whack whack semicolon \n 1 semicolon 2 semicolon 3 should work, right? So return sum given string with custom delimiter, like that. Alright, so that is a test that I think should work. 1, 2, 3 makes 6. There's my delimiter. There it is right there. Alright, so over here now, we want to check and see if the string starts with //. So if numbers.starts with //, then we need to do something with a custom delimiter. And we can just say our delimiters now is up here, and we could just do var numbers equals numbers.split on /n \n. Let's see, this is the new delimiter actually. New delimiter is numbers.split dot first. Okay, now how do I make sure that's a character? Or do I care if it's a character? I guess it could be a string. So the var delimiter could be a string, right? String new delimiter. And what if I make these strings? Does everything still work if I'm using strings? Otherwise I gotta cast to a character, which I can do, but my life gets easier if I just say they're all strings. No, you don't like string delimiters. Okay, so back that out, and instead I've got to somehow get this delimiter into a char. So there's a convert delimiters.add convert.to char. Is it convert? I don't use convert often enough. What is the syntax for convert? System.convert of t, or convert dot from, how do I do convert? Convert dot to char from what? Anything, right? Yeah. So from the thing, from new delimiter. So new delimiter. So that's what I want. I want that. And I want that to be added to my list of delimiters. But you don't like that. Why not? Char, oh, fine, let's just make this a list. So var delimiters equals new list of char. And you need to be a generic list now. And now I can add to you. Delimiters.add with an extra paren. And yeah, I'll work up to those, helpful stranger. We're going to add delimiters dot to array, and we're close. We're not that close. All right, that didn't work. And the reason is because I need to get rid of the prefix on this thing. So when I split this out, it gives me two pieces. So I really want to have numbers here, and then when I get to numbers starts with, even if I don't do numbers starts with, I want to have something like string number string equals numbers dot split on the \n. Let's see, and I want to skip the first one. Well, no, I can't skip the first one if it doesn't start with // Well, I guess we just say number string equals numbers to start with. So we're not, I don't want to manipulate the input. I'd rather manipulate my own local. So number string equals numbers. New delimiter equals, okay, so var split input equals numbers dot split on that. On that. Cut that, paste that, get rid of that. Okay, so split input dot first is the new delimiter, and number string equals split input dot skip, and there's probably an easier way to do this, but we're going to skip the first one. Dot to, I'm going to join it now. I think I have to join it. Dot join, and it's not the join I want. I think I need string dot join. Alright, so split input dot skip that, it gives me a list of string, and then I can do string dot join the char separator of, this is probably not the easiest way to do this, \n is again, and then this thing. Right? So there's my number string back to the way it was, but minus the opening // \n, I think. This still doesn't work though. So what are we getting here? 1, 2, 3 should be 6. I get the delimiter, I add it. Everything else is green. Someone suggests I just trim off the front //, but that doesn't get rid of the delimiter itself or the first new line that's splitting it. So if I trim numbers // I get rid of those, but I don't get rid of these. So what I'm trying to do here is I say split input means the first item in that input when I split on /n is this. So that's what first is. And that's why it's wrong. So first includes, that's what you're saying I should trim. Delimiters.add, convert to char, that's going to blow up because I need to trim it. So this is new delimiter.first.trim that, right? Is what you're suggesting. But that doesn't like that either because why? String removes, why don't you like that? Can I convert from string to char? Split input is a string. I get the first string, and I trim it. Well, what if we just trim all instances of that? How about that? No? Still don't like it. Alright. If I have this, I really just want the last character, but this could be multiple things. What's the easiest way to just trim off those two characters? Why doesn't this work? Removes all leading and trailing instances of a character. Alright, so maybe that is working. Alright, well let's do the unthinkable and debug into this and see what it's doing. So we're going to debug that and wait forever. This is why I don't debug very often, because it's so slow, and it's with a fast machine. It's thinking about it. Alright, there we go. So split input is null. No, new delimiter is null. Split input is a string with two things, / semi, 1, 2, 3. Perfect. That's what I want. And we step over this, and now new delimiter is semicolon. Alright, that's what I want. Number string is the whole big thing, right? That's what it should be. Step. Number string now is 1, semi 2, semi 3. Perfect. Delimiters.add. Do that. Alright. So now we have delimiters, which now has three things, which is comma, \n, semicolon. That's perfect. So then we step over this, and we get int.parse_s blows up. Why was an input string? Select int.parse, what was s? S should have been numbers. Numbers was, where's numbers? Where's my locals? Auto. What, did I lose the thing? Show me what it is. Input string was not in the correct format. It was a 1 and a 2 and a 3. Number string, char versus string. Numbers is a string. We saw it. It was number string. It was the right one. Alright, let's do this again. So, breakpoint on that. This is the downside to link, is that when this thing fails, it's like, well, somewhere in there, something broke. I don't understand why I can't see it still, but that's fine. Let's just debug it again. That test run took 1.8 minutes. That's way too long. Alright, so numbers. There's the problem. I'm using numbers. That should be number string. I got it. Bam. Okay, get rid of that, get rid of that. When you do this type of thing, and I always forget this, and you switch from using your function input to using a local, you need to make sure you change it everywhere else below. So number string, that could be number string, that could be number string, and that could be number string. And I really wish there was like a C# feature that says from this point forward, numbers is not usable. Don't use it past this point, because I've decided to switch over to a thing I'm going to manipulate. Okay, that all passed, so yay. And that was number, different delimiter, number 4, I guess we're done. So step 4 done. Step 4 done. Alright, what's step 5? First line is optional. Yep. Calling add with negative will throw negatives not allowed in the list of all the negative numbers. So example -1, 2. Let's copy that. Put there, do this, and take that now. Control X, paste it in there. -1, 2 doesn't actually do anything, and this says throws given negative inputs. Alright, so it needs to collect the negative inputs and then throw. So we have a number string. Well, let's finish writing a test first. Let's see. Action equals calculator dot add numbers, and then we say assert dot throws exception type. What is our exception type? Just exception. Alright, so type of exception. Do I even need that? I think there's an overload for this where I don't need that. Or it's a throws of t, maybe. Do this. Var x equals that. And assert.r equal. This is going to be the exception message. Negatives not allowed, colon -1. There. Expected message. Alright, now this is assert.throws exception. There. Calculator add numbers. Or are you not happy? Cannot convert from object to action. That's because it needs to look like that. There we go. Expected message equals ex.message. Now our test compiles, maybe? Or are you not happy? Because that's a string. Alright. Now our code compiles. Now I can go over here and write a thing that says var negatives equals number string dot, let's just get the numbers. So var number list equals this. Alright. Result equals number list dot sum, and that means everything still passes except for this new thing. Var negatives equals number list dot where number such that n less than 0. If negatives dot any, then throw new exception. Negatives not allowed, and then negatives. And now we just say string negative string. I feel like I'm getting close on time. Negative string equals negatives dot dot select and dot toString. Right, that gives me a bunch of strings, and I can do string dot join, comma, negatives, blah blah blah, that. Here's that select. Or are you not happy? ToString that. There we go. Okay, so now we've got the negatives. We get over here, the error says covered. Let's run this test, see what we get. Succeeded. What's your result? Message. Assert equal failure. There's a negative string. Literally negative string. $. Thank you. And everything's green again. Alright, so now let's do another test. And this will be -1, -2. And this will be -1, comma, -2. Green again. Coolness. So then we go over here and we did step 5. Done. Alright, now step 6 says ignore over 1,000. Alright, that's easy enough. Let's go back up to a simple test like this one and jump down here and say boom, return sum given string, blah blah blah, ignoring values over 1,000, like that. There's our numbers, there's our things. 1, 2, 3,000 gives me 3. And what other things have we got? 1001, comma 2. Let's try that one. 1001, comma 2. Should just return 2. Those fail. So now we've got a number list. Here's our sum. We really want to sum n such that n is less than 1,000. What about edge conditions? Numbers greater than 1,000, so less than or equal to. Why are you not happy? Cannot convert bool to long. Sum takes an expression, right? I guess we'll just do a dot where. And then get rid of that. I thought you could do an expression on there. Why are you not doing it? Okay, that works. Alright, so that works, and we may as well try 1,000 as our edge case, right? And that should be 1,000 too. Good. Alright, so that was step 6, and we're done. Alright. Okay, I get it, Google. Stop it. Stop it. Alright, so let me check that in. Step 6. Commit all. And that was not bad. Okay, so I haven't pushed all this up yet, so let's do that. And now I'm just going to go show you what the cool tool looks like with Git History. So bring this over here and refresh this. And then we can jump into the source, and there's our thing from today, and we did String Calculator, and here's what it all looks like. And we can say open this in Git History. And so this is github.githistory.xyz and then slash the path that you're using in GitHub. Right, so you can literally just add, you replace .com on GitHub with .githistory.xyz. There's also a Chrome extension, which is what I'm using. But if you jump all the way back to the beginning, and if you're good enough to, or you know, if you have the presence of mind to do a lot of commits when you're doing one of these, it lets you kind of step through this and say, okay, well first we just return 0, and then we check to see if it was null or empty, and otherwise we return 1, and then we parse the numbers string into an integer and return that, and then we split it on a comma and parsed it and gave back the sum, and then we pulled out the delimiters and selected and then parsed and give the sum, and then et cetera, right? So you can kind of see how your code evolves this way. Now there's still probably some final refactoring that we could do in here, and certainly, you know, if I spent a little more time looking at this and I wasn't trying to get through everything, I would look for that. But this is reasonably clean. You know, eventually I wanted to pull out numbers as their own separate thing. I didn't need that initially, but I did once I needed to start dealing with negatives and be able to display them. It'd be easy to just like throw an exception if there happened to be any. But the fact that they wanted to have them around meant that I needed to be able to take that collection of negatives and actually work with it. And that's why I wanted to pull those out separately. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So if I go back to the kata, which I've lost, so here at the timer, we got through step 6, but there are still 3 steps left, right? So I could have gotten through 3 more, and if I had this, if I'd done this more recently, maybe I would have gotten through it. But you can see it's meant to be a challenge to get through the whole thing. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I wanted to do today. If you want to see the code for the Kata catalog is here. The code that I just did is over here. I'll give you this right here. We'll throw that in the chat so that people see it. And then you won't necessarily have, if you open this up yourself, you won't necessarily have this button open in Git History. That's a Chrome extension I've got. But again, if you just take this .com and change it to githistory.xyz on a particular file, it should open it up for you like this. All right, and then you can see it. Last but not least, if you want to do this type of exercise with a bunch of folks that are trying to get better, check out DevBetter. It's a group coaching program I run with a bunch of great people. We're always happy to see new faces. It's not free. Part of the reason why we charge for it is because I only have so many hours in a day to mentor people, and because we want the people that are there to be committed to actually wanting to improve themselves. So that's my brief advertisement here again for this stream. With that, it's now midnight my time, and I should probably get to bed. So Thanks you all for hanging out, and folks on YouTube, thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more streams and things from me. Bye all.